Chris Graham here from Trailblazer RV, and today I'm going to take you through a new RV orientation on a 2018 Sportsmen 323 BHK. Let's start at the front of the trailer. There's a couple of notable things at the front, namely your propane system and your battery. And to access your propane bottles, the cover just lifts off like so. You got dual 20-pound propane tanks here. Both of these are full right now, and an automatic switchover propane regulator. When you're running your propane system, if you open both bottles, and have your propane regulator selector pointed at this bottle, this becomes the supply bottle, and the other bottle becomes the reserve. So when the trailer has depleted the supply bottle, it will still pull propane from the reserve bottle. At that point, you can flip the regulator over to the other bottle, take off the first bottle, and go and refill it without ever shutting down your propane system. These are 20-pound propane tanks, so they work with the common propane bottle exchanges. Behind the propane tanks is your battery system. This is a 12-volt deep cycle RV battery. 2 leads on the battery. Red is positive, black is negative. And with a flooded wet cell battery, they do require a little bit of maintenance. Underneath these 2 caps, you'll find 6 cells filled with liquid. We recommend, as part of your semi-annual maintenance, when you bring the RV out of storage, and again when you put it away into storage, just pop these caps off and check the level of liquid in those cells. If it looks a little bit low, particularly if you can see metal plates sticking through the liquid, you'll want to top that up with some distilled water and put a good charge on the battery. We also recommend over the winter that you pull the battery off the RV and store it somewhere where it's not going to freeze, preferably not on a concrete surface. As we move around the side of the trailer, you've got your front storage compartment. Pass-through front storage. Your power cord is stored in here. It's a 30 amp power cord that'll plug into lots of 30 amp RV sites, but we supply a park adapter as well to adapt that to 15 amp household power. Right inside the storage compartment here, if you need to access it, your water pump will be accessed from here for winterizing. When you need to access that, just pull these 2 screws off and remove this panel to access your water pump. The trailer has 4 corner stabilizing jacks. When you park the RV, you'll want to lower all 4 of those stabilizer jacks so that they're snug with the ground. Don't ever lift the RV off the ground with those though. They're designed to stabilize the RV, not to lift it or to level it. For leveling, the best way to level an RV side to side is to back it up onto blocks. You can use something as simple as 2x6s, or we have special leveling blocks that fit together like Legos for more reliable leveling. Right here you've got your sewer termination system. So when you go to dump your holding tanks, we supply a 20-foot RV sewer hose. It's stored in the rear bumper right now. Remove the cap, attach your sewer hose onto the termination system. Other end of the hose goes into the ground. You have 2 valves here. A larger black valve, this is your sewer, and a smaller gray valve. This is your sink and shower water. Always dump the sewer first, let it finish dumping, close the valve, and dump the gray. Let it finish dumping, close the valve. Then you use your gray water to flush out the sewage from the hose. When you remove the hose, it should be a little more pleasant that way. running gear. Your lug nuts are torqued to 100 foot-pounds. We recommend as periodic maintenance retorquing your wheel nuts as well. You can get yourself a torque wrench to torque them to 100 foot-pounds. If you don't have a torque wrench, just use a wheel wrench to torque them good and tight. Important to note that the wheel wrench that comes with your truck may not fit these lug nuts, so it's not a bad idea to make sure you have a wheel wrench available should you need to change a tire on the side of the road. Your tires are inflated to 80 psi. It's stamped right on the side of the trailer, 80 psi cold, and we do recommend running the tires right at 80 psi. Under inflation of RV tires is a chronic problem in our industry, and it's one of the reasons that RV tires have garnered a little bit of a bad reputation. So run your tires at 80 psi. Here's your outside shower. I won't actually open that up, it's pretty simple. There's a hot and cold tap in here, and the outside shower extends to about that height. Don't forget to winterize this. We'll put the RV away for the winter. And this is your black tank flush. So when you're dumping your holding tanks, when you have that black valve open, hook a hose up to here, and you can spray out the inside of your holding tanks to keep the sides of the tank clean and to keep the monitor panel reading accurately. This is where you'll attach your 30 amp power cord. We saw it in the front storage compartment. It's a marine style power cord, so just attach it on, twist, and thread the connection into place. Sewer hose is stored inside here. This one has the folding cargo tray. The cargo tray is rated for 250 pounds. Small generators, a little bit of firewood, that kind of thing, don't exceed the 250 pounds. It could be for safety reasons, obviously, but it'll also change the towing dynamic of the RV quite a bit if you have too much weight on the rear cargo tray. Here we've got your outside kitchen. Pretty simple 2-burner gas stove top. This needs to connect to the RV's propane system. There's a quick connect right underneath here that attaches right to the bottom of the stove. You'll find the quick connect hose right here. Another quick connect here for your water. You've got hot and cold water. The faucet is removable, and it comes with a sprayer as well, so that can hook up right there. The fridge in the outside kitchen is 110 volt powered only. This doesn't run on propane like your normal fridge. You need to be plugged into power for this fridge to operate. Here we've got our hot water tank. Hot water tank runs on gas or electricity. And it's all direct spark ignition, so there's no pilot lights or anything that you need to worry about. You'll see the little toggle switch on the bottom of the tank here. It's in the on position right now. This is to run the tank electrically. There's a second switch inside to toggle it on and off electrically, but you'll need to have this switch in the on position to be able to run the tank on electricity. Right at the bottom of the tank here, you can see a little plug there. You'll pull that out to drain the hot water tank when you go to winterize the RV. And inside there you'll find an anode rod. An anode rod's about this long, and it will quite often look very pitted and corroded, and that's perfectly normal. It's doing exactly what it's supposed to do. The anode rod is sacrificial. The impurities in the water corrode the anode rod rather than the inside lining of the tank. So until that rod is corroded right down to the tiny little stick in the center, it doesn't need to be replaced, but it is something that will be needed to be replaced periodically, typically every 3 or 4 years. Before you pull that, make sure to pull the pressure relief valve. We've got no pressure on the system right now, but normally the system will be pressured to somewhere around 40 psi. So if you don't relieve the pressure from the system before you pull the anode rod, you'll get a bit of a shower. It'll quite likely be a hot shower. And then the only other thing in the hot water tank here, there's two little reset buttons here. These are your ECOs. Should you ever overheat the water tank, namely start up the tank with no water in it, you'll trip these and you won't be able to start the tank again until you reset them. There's two. One on the left is for electricity, the one on the right is for propane. Should you ever have a problem with your hot water tank not being able to light, just come out here, press those two resets, and everything should go back to normal. Above the hot water tank is the fridge vent. Not really very much maintenance to be had here aside from opening it and maybe cleaning it once in a while. You'll also have access to the pilot assembly for the fridge in there, but it's all direct spark, so you don't have to manually light a pilot or anything if you don't want. It's primarily a venting for the back of the fridge. Your steps, to extend your steps, pull out, roll down, and flip down. So flip up, roll up, push in. Pretty simple. And here you have your power awning. This one has the Smart Arm awning controls. So if we press and hold the unlock button to activate the Smart Arm, then you can control your awning from outside. You can also control it from inside, and I'll show you that when we get inside the trailer. This one has the optional feature of the motion sensor. That is for the awning light. So you can see the LED strip there, and when you have the motion sensor set to automatic, it will turn on that light every time the motion sensor picks up movement. This awning can also be height adjusted. If you're camping in a rainstorm and want to control where the water drains from the awning, we'll just get it all the way out here and I'll show you how to do that. Probably the simplest awning on the market to adjust. Just pull it down. You can adjust either or both sides. Typically though, we recommend only lowering one side so that you can control where the water flows from the awning. Put it back up. Just push up, and retract the awning again. A couple of things with the awning. The adjustable power awnings are more durable than people think, but we still recommend if you get any kind of a significant wind come up, bring the awning in. If you're leaving the RV for any length of time, bring the awning in. It only takes a second, and you don't want to risk damage to that awning. The lend-a-hand door handle is folded across the door. A lot of people like to travel that way just to ensure that the door couldn't possibly come open while you're traveling. Come on inside, I'll show you through the inside of the trailer. Starting right here at the entry door, you've got a couple of switches here. One is for the awning, so we just operated the awning from outside. You can also operate it from in here. And the other is for your slide out. So if we press out, that slide will extend. You can see as the slide goes out, it kind of sinks down, and as it extends all the way, it's a flush floor slide out. You're going to see the slide kind of sink into position. hear that ratcheting sound, it's all the way out. You can take your finger off the button. It doesn't hurt anything, but that's how you know that the slide is all the way out. A couple more switches here. One is for your main entry lights. One is for your blue ambient light, and one is for the outside awning light, which we spoke about outside already. As we move into the kitchen, you've got 8 cubic foot gas electric nor cold fridge. So this can run on 110 volt electricity or propane. My recommendation is always just to set that to automatic. When it's running on automatic, if it has electricity available, it will always run on that. But if you blow a breaker or the trailer gets unplugged without your knowing, it'll sense that and it will automatically switch over to propane. If you can hear it in the video, it's ticking now as the propane pilot lights. There's also a temperature control on this fridge, 1 being the warmest, 5 being the coldest. I usually set that on 3 or 4, but depending on ambient temperature and altitude above sea level, you may need to make some adjustments to that. If you ever have the lights start to flash on your fridge like this is a check light. So this means that the fridge failed to light on gas. The reason for that is because I just opened the propane bottles when we were at the front of the trailer and didn't bleed the air off the system. The easiest way to bleed the air from the system is right from the stove burners. If you turn any one or all of the burners on, then you have a piezo sparker right here. We'll just let that air bleed off the system. 2 out of 3. There we go. So now that you've bled the air off the system, if we turn that fridge back to auto, it'll properly light this time. The only pilot light in the RV that you actually have to light manual is for the oven. And I'll show you where to do that. There's a knob right at the top of the oven here. If you turn that over to pilot, you have to push in on this knob. And while holding the knob in, your pilot assembly is right underneath here. With a barbecue lighter, you can light that pilot light. Once you see a flame there, continue to hold the pilot knob for 10 or 15 seconds for the flame sensor to heat up. And then you can turn the oven to whatever temperature you want. When you're finished using the oven, you can turn it all the way down to pilot on and just leave the pilot running, or you can turn it all the way to off and just light the pilot again next time you need it. Here next to the bathroom is your thermostat. This operates your heating and cooling systems for the RV. But we're not plugged into 110 volt power right now, so we won't actually be able to fire up the air conditioner. You need to be plugged into power for that. The furnace, though, will operate off your propane and battery. So if I turn this, the system over to heat, and then turn the thermostat up to a temperature, you can hear the fan come on. That fan's going to run for 15 or 20 seconds before you hear the burner light up. We'll just wait for that to happen. Don't know if you could hear that in the video, but the burner just lit up on that furnace. So given a few minutes, we would have warm air blowing from the vents. When we shut it off, exactly the same thing happens, only in reverse. Shut it off, the burner goes out immediately, but the fan's still going to run for another 30 seconds, up to a minute before the system actually shuts down. When you do run it on air conditioning, you have 2 settings, fan or cool. So you can run the air conditioning fan without the actual cooling, or you can run the air conditioning itself. And there's 2 settings for that. automatic as per the thermostat with high and low fan speeds, or just always on for the fan, high and low fan speeds. I usually leave that set to automatic and high fan speed, but you can adjust that as necessary. Here in the back, we've got your other two slide out controls. We'll go ahead and run them out just so that we have some room in here. Maybe in the interest of time, we'll only run one of them out. They operate the same. Incidentally, you could run both of those out at the same time if you want. It's a fairly substantial power draw though, and we're not plugged into power right now, so we're only operating off of the battery. In the bedroom, you've got 3 bunk beds, double on the bottom, oversized single, and another oversized single. And then there is also a trunnion bed, pulls out from below there. The bed on this side lifts up and can pin in place for extra headroom. And then a couple of little things worth mentioning in here. You have an auxiliary TV location here for the kids if they are so inclined. You have a folding ladder here, and pretty decent amount of storage here at the back. That's about all there is in the kids' bedroom. Let's go into the bathroom here. In the bathroom, a couple of things that are worth pointing out. On the monitor panel, you can see the level of your battery, your fresh tank, black and gray holding tanks. You can see right now all of your holding tanks are empty and your battery is good. If it was currently under charge, it would show the 4th light there. This is also where you'll activate your water pump, activate your water heater on your hot water tank on propane, or your hot water tank on electricity. Another thing in the bathroom that's worth pointing out is your ground fault circuit interrupter power outlet, just like the one in the bathroom in your home with the test and reset button. The only difference in an RV is this is wired in series with the rest of your power outlets. So if you trip this, you'll lose power to all of your power outlets. So if you're plugged into power and you have no power from any of your outlets, come into the bathroom, press the reset button, everything should likely go back to normal. And with the toilet, you'll want to use a RV toilet chemical when you're using the sewage system for the RV. The chemical comes in powder, tablet, or liquid form. We stock all 3. And when you dump your holding tanks, every time you dump your holding tanks, you want to come into the trailer, pour some chemical into the toilet bowl, use the foot flush, push halfway down on it to fill the bowl with water, and then all the way down to dump the chemical into the tank. The chemical needs some water to activate it, so make sure you put some water down into the tank. Then you should be good until the next time you dump your holding tanks. Only a couple of other things to discuss. Down here, down low, you have your propane leak detector. This is actually a combination, propane and carbon monoxide. So it'll do 3 things. It'll alert you to a possible propane leak. It'll alert you to a possible carbon monoxide situation. But the third and most common thing that it does is alert you to a low voltage on your battery. Just like a smoke detector in your house, when the batteries start to go very low, it will beep periodically to alert you to that. So if this starts making noise, there's a very good chance that you don't have a propane or carbon monoxide issue. More likely that your batteries are low. And then next to that, on the topic of power, this is your power converter. This is the 12 volt and 110 volt power center for the RV. So all of your 12 volt circuits are fused here, and all of your 110 volt circuits are on breakers. It's not uncommon in an RV to blow a fuse occasionally, so we do recommend having some spare fuses on hand. You can see mostly 15 amp fuses there, but you've got one 20 amp and a couple of 40 amps as well. So I recommend having some spare fuses on hand. I think that pretty much covers it. Most everything else is pretty self-explanatory. Two things that are worth mentioning when it comes to winterizing. If you're going to do your own winterizing, remember the water pump in this trailer is located in the front storage compartment behind that access panel. And the valves for the hot water tank are located behind this access panel. So 2 screws to remove that, and you can isolate your hot water tank. For more information on how to winterize and summarize your RV, see our other videos on our YouTube channel. And I think that pretty much covers it. So hopefully you've learned at least something about the 2018 Sportsmen 323 BHK. If you have any other questions, you can always get a hold of us here at Trailblazer or send us a form through our website. Thank you.